Mystical.
Cynical. My name is Darren.
And I'm Jamie.
This is 2 months. We're at, like 2 days ago was 2 months that we started this podcast.
It's been feeling 2 months. I'm sorry to not be surprised. That's how I've been kind of talking about it lately.
Yeah, we're 17 episodes in. This is 17. 2 months. That's really good. I think that feels, I mean, obviously gauging time anymore is impossible and who the fuck knows, but this is 2 months for anybody keeping track.
This is the episode age where they start getting really sassy.
Oh, yeah. I thought I started that around episode 1.
That's true.
I was checking the stats as I did really early on in episodes 1, 2, 3, and then I petered off, and now I'm like, well, let's get back into this. And I tried to find the chart information, and I found that we are number 110 in society and culture in Uruguay.
Oh, nice. Oh, my gosh.
It's so random.
We didn't break the top 100?
We'll get in there. I mean, if we're at 110 2 months in, we'll be number 1 in society and culture in Uruguay in 2 more months.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Does it mean that there's not a lot of podcasts going on in Uruguay, or is it a testament to how amazing we are?
When you think of Uruguay...
Excuse me. Oh, yeah. we pronounce it differently here. Okay. Uruguay. No, it is Uruguay. You're right.
It probably is. I don't know.
No, I think it's Uruguay. Yeah.
But I get all my information from Wes Anderson movies. Do you remember the love interest in Bottle Rocket? I think she's from Uruguay.
Oh, the housekeeper?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think she is.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Pulling from the
So
bins.
what I think, would you asking what I think of when I think of Uruguay?
Yeah.
I don't.
Right. Right.
I'm pretty sure it's in South America.
Yeah.
Probably on the northern end where the smaller countries are, kind of like maybe bordering Brazil up top.
Are you waving to me?
Yeah. I was doing a mental map of South America in my head.
Oh, now we can fuck around because we're attempting to do video. And so there's some visual.
I know. And I'm so self-conscious of it right now. I'm
Are
just
you?
looking at myself like, I wore the wrong jacket today.
I have to stop.
Do you know one of Ventura's finest showed up to 40? I was about to give our address out.
Oh my God.
To 40 beep. Yeah, so I was just sitting at home yesterday and there was a knock on the door, slightly aggressive. And
I heard that.
Yeah, and I opened it and was like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Police Officer."
Huh.
And he had a report in his hand, and he's like, "Yeah, do you?" I forget what his line of questioning was. Essentially trying to get me to talk about an incident that happened with my child. And I'm like, obviously like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh my God.
Trying to remain cool,
Right.
And he says, "Had you had an incident with your child recently with their mouth? Anything with their teeth?" And then like very vague, like, "Can you just tell me what you're here for, and then we'll get to it?" But obviously he didn't want to, whatever. He was using some sort of process of interrogation that wasn't going to like let me get out of it.
Right.
And I just was like, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." He's like, "Have you seen your child recently?" I was like, "Yeah, they were just here this morning. I brought him to school." Okay. And he's starting to peek inside the house. And what do I have right next to the fireplace but a fucking cardboard cutout of my child, which I don't know if like absolved me or implicated me. I don't know. He probably didn't know either.
Yeah.
He's like, "Shit, we don't have."
He probably has to go to the guidebook.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be right back.
Car,
Go check this. Got to call my superior officer. And so, yeah, turns out that he had the wrong address. It was 411 he was looking for.
Oh, my God.
And he said when he was leaving, trying to be, I guess, maybe slightly embarrassed of his mistake, he said, "Well, no jail for you today." I said, "Fucking good one, dude."
What? He did not say that.
He did say that, yeah. Yeah. Like hilarious. Like, "Oh, really? You really made this like a lighthearted moment here that I'll talk about on my podcast."
Oh my God.
Yeah. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Trying to be funny.
Shit.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've had very little experiences with law enforcement, but I do feel like I think most people do, and even as a white male, to the level of nervousness I get, I can only imagine what a minority experiences anytime there's a law enforcement around. I don't know if you notice or if you do this when you're driving around, and there's like heavy police presence in this town. There's always kind of like cop cars just parked strategically around.
Yeah.
And if one pulls behind me or in front of me, if one pulls behind me, I make a turn off the road and pretend I'm going somewhere.
I'm always proud now to be one of these people that I don't have to do that.
Like, yeah. Oh, so you just act like there's not a cop behind you?
I
or-
actually pass fucking highway patrol
Yeah.
people on
Yeah.
the freeway. Like
Oh,
I'll pass
nice.
them, because everybody else is doing the super
Oh, yeah.
slow thing behind them, and I'm like brazenly just driving past them because they're going kind of like 65 or
Yeah.
68, and I go 73.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going 80. And
Yeah.
and I saw, most people drive 75 actually.
Right.
In a 65. And so I just do it, and I do it because I have like my own impunity,
Sure.
I just think like I'm not up to shenanigans that I
Yeah.
was when I was a kid. So I have all my affairs in order, which is a
Right.
fucking strange thing.
Yeah.
It's a really strange thing to have at this point. And I use it in this way of like, yeah, let's get pulled over. Like I've gotten,
No. Makes me so uncomfortable.
I've gotten pulled over twice, and they go, we have this really nice conversation.
Uh-huh.
I don't end up getting a ticket, and then they let me go, and we're like buddies or something.
Right,
Like
right,
we
right,
have
yeah.
this exchange. They could see that I'm not like, that I'm not afraid, and I'm present, or I imagine this is all what I imagine.
Yes.
But like they go out of their way. The last guy went out of his way to find conversation with me. He was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, so you're from Sierra Madre, huh?"
Uh-huh.
Started having this conversation with me about Sierra Madre and how great and quaint of a
Right,
town
right.
it
And he's
is.
like, "Who's that picture on your dashboard?" You're like, "Oh, it's Vic. Let me tell you about him." He's like, "I gotta get going here." Well, when I was younger, I had and in that vein of as soon as a cop's behind me, I'm extraordinarily uncomfortable and I do whatever I can to get away from it. When I was younger, I just pulled into a random driveway.
Oh yeah, I used to do that all the
and
time.
the cop pulled right into the random driveway with me.
Oh shit!
And so I'm like, okay, now I got to get out. And so I get out and I start walking up to this house that I don't know. And he's like, "You know somebody who lives here?" I was like, "Yeah, it's my friend." And he's like, "All right." And he gets back and leaves. And then I'm like, how slowly can I walk to this door before he
Right.
gets out? But what I do now is, when I'm driving past or we're passing, I do this thing where I try and act as casual or human as possible. So I'll scratch my nose, or I'll rub my chin, or I'll like yawn.
Right.
I'll fake yawn.
Right. Or
where he's looking
take
at me,
a
he's like,
sip, take a sip of something.
yes. Where I'm
That's
like,
the
I
thing
am
that
so
everybody does.
casual right now that I'm just look at me. I'm just yawning. I'm just being all human. And like,
Yeah.
it's out of fear.
Pay attention when you're in public next time, and you're with somebody. You have to be in a quarters with someone, and see how many times they hit their drink, because it's just like, this is something I can do with my mouth, where it's not
Yes.
talking to you, and because I feel awkward about having this responsibility, and I'm just going to take sips, and I'm going to take sips.
I mean, it's just it's incredibly uncomfortable being human. So we have to just
God, it's
try things.
so hard to watch. I have to say, when I'm in like doctors' lobbies or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and just seeing all the lengths people are going to not make eye contact with you.
For sure. Well,
And
the
to
phone
not
is
talk.
extraordinarily helpful now, because you're just like, whoop, you just go right into your phone. Which
Right.
is,
That's what they
most-
do.
yeah.
And to watch somebody, go from incessantly
Mm-hmm.
sipping their drink to pulling out the phone and then making the frowny face. Well, I'm doing something now. And, and I'm like, it would probably just be easier to talk to me.
Yeah.
Even though, I'm not necessarily trying to talk to everybody in doctor's lobbies. I got to rein shit in a little bit. Lacey's like,
hey, psst, psst, hey, listen.
want to know about Tibetan Buddhism?
Oh, I see you're reading a magazine. Oh, People magazine. Yeah, I know about People. I also in that vein of awkwardness and finding ways to get out of it. I imagine this probably isn't something you've done. I think we maybe have talked about this off air, but using your phone for fake phone calls to get out of situations.
Oh, yeah.
I would say I've had more fake phone calls than I've had real phone calls in my life.
Oh, right.
Where I have it.
That's
I mean, I am like Oscar level, like
whoa.
where I
Tom Hanks of fake
pretty
phone
much,
calls, huh?
yeah, Tom Hanks. That feels about right.
Yeah. Or are you going to go Daniel Day-Lewis because of your method?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do because before we say action and after we say cut, I am doing the phone call. Like I'll do it to the point where I get back to the car and I'm literally back in the car and I still have it on because I don't, because I don't want to break character within that and have that person who obviously has stopped thinking about me 5 minutes ago. And it's like, and I'm still literally having the conversation. It's always very logistical based. So it's like, yeah, hey, yeah, Yeah, I think Tuesday should work. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it's always very scheduling based, because it's like, yeah.
You know what you should do? You should turn on a podcast and then act like you're waving around the phone, like having a speaker conversation with somebody.
But on Mystical Cynicals, I didn't talk to himself. What the fuck's going on there? Yeah, it's great. I feel like I had this moment that I didn't get to talk to last episode, but where I had this like really clear example of choice within choosing suffering or choosing joy. And Daly woke up really, really early. It was like, I don't know, like 6:30. The sun, I mean, it was still pitch black out. And was like, I'm hungry. And I said, shut up.
Yeah, totally.
So I said, all right, fine. And very like immediately begrudging like the experience of like, oh, I have to wake up, make this kid food. And then I'm like so groggy. I was like, I don't know what to make. And we go downstairs. And so I'm already heavy footing down the stairs because I'm angry. You know, like my body becomes like 50 pounds heavier because I'm just like, you know, pissed.
Yeah.
We get downstairs and I don't want to turn any lights on because it's just so glaring. So I'm cooking eggs in the dark and eggs in the middle. You guys know about eggs in the middle? Is that familiar?
In the toast?
Oh, it's the best.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really
eggs in the
is.
hole.
Eggs in the hole. Yeah, there's a few other terms too.
My mom used to call it egg chortles.
Chortles. Let's see if I can get Daly on a chortles. And so yeah, making it, and I'm just in that moment. I had immediate recognition of I am choosing this right now. I am choosing to be pissed. It is such a choice. And I know it so well in myself and from my childhood.
Yep.
I knew that I do that arms crossed thing where I'm like, I'm just mad and I've chosen that. And now I'm going to like dive into that and just really embody that. And so in that moment I thought, I don't want to do this. This will paint my entire day. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to be mad right now for this experience. And when I drop Daly off at school, I'll get to be happy. It's like, no, if you choose this now, if like you set this setting, it's a full day that you'll be in this mood.
Yeah.
And so I just had it as quickly as that. I had the realization and I just said, no, I'm going to be in a good mood. And I just immediately changed my tune and was like so joyful and so sweet to Daly. And then the rest of the day was incredible.
And that's a part of talking about the last episode where we were discussing, you know, being able to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're in a human body. You're able to change things like that. You're able to think of something else if you have the ability to catch yourself.
Well, that's it. You have to get ahead of it for sure. Because then you can change it from I am mad, which we often be like, I am mad, to I'm choosing to be mad.
Right.
Or this is something that that I could easily get away from if I wanted to.
You know,
Not easily, but
and the next level of that. And that's an amazing place to be. So not to go next level with it immediately.
No, please,
but like,
let's go to the next level.
But like
next level.
Next level. Which one, Aaron?
Oh shit, that's good.
So now I catch that. I see that I'm angry. I see that I'm upset. If the kids are being particularly, they're distracted on their phones, trying to have conversations, interrupting my conversations because they're on their phones, wanting to participate in the room. So to deflect.
You don't know what's going on here.
Well, they're like, there's this weird, I think, this guilt of them knowing that like they're on their devices and I want to still show like I'm here.
Yep.
And so they have now do these like, these conversations that there's not a lot of attention. It's all impulse.
Right.
So it's kind of dickish. It kind of comes out like a little like, they're like, you know, it's usually something very pessimistic or whatever. It's, you know, it's not positive or adding anything to the conversation, and it's not well informed.
Right.
Because it's just periphery listening while you're really building some shit on Minecraft.
I wonder where that ADD came from, huh?
Right. So I pointed that out. I'm like, hey, you guys got to stop talking when you're on your devices. If you want to have a conversation, you want to be a part of the conversation that's active in the room, you have to put these down and then talk to us. Yeah. Like if you're wanting to have a conversation with me or ask a question even about what's for dinner or any of that, you have to look at me in the eyes, you know? And I think that's
you
like,
see your phone ringing for a FaceTime. Hello. Yeah, I was just saying, hey, it's Tiger. I was just wondering what's for dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
You just, I think, probably pointed out something probably a lot of parents can really relate to of having older children who now were like, I just feel so goddamn grateful to have been born, to have had a childhood without the internet, and to now live in a world with the internet.
Totally.
We're the last, I think we've talked about this, we're the last generation. We're like these like ancestors that can talk about this time before this thing. And we're the only ones who have any real reference to it and understand the importance of it and how just vital it is.
Yeah.
And that we have to like drag our kids out of that when it's so appealing for them.
Totally. And you know, I think that they get it, you know? And
sure. Well, because there's something in them innately. Yeah. Pre-internet, pre-technology, pre-human form. Yeah. That it's just like, this doesn't feel right. But the thing that they're holding is so like, it's just like, how do I fight this? I mean, this is like some fucking, you know, not the Ring, the Lord of the Rings type shit of like, once it's in your hand, you're turning into fucking, my Lord of the Rings references are terrible.
Don't worry, nobody's holding you to Frodo being like the master of Tolkien. Yeah. No, but
they know it's
3
wrong.
or 4 years ago, Jordan Peterson, who's a controversial character, mainly because he grew in controversy because at a certain point, he was taken sort of out of context in saying that we can't make people refer to non-binary people. We can't make people say them by the right pronoun. And it sounded like, I think to a wide audience, it sounded like he was prejudiced. Mm-hmm. And he had thousands of hours of conversations logged. He's a professor in Canada, and thousands of hours logged where he's anything but that, you know.
Thousands of hours of saying, I'm not prejudiced, I'm not prejudiced, I'm not prejudiced.
Just on repeat. Yeah. So when some research was done, it was just seen that this was a massive taking out of context. What he was saying is, he said, I'll call anybody exactly what they want to, however they identify. But what he was like, but I'm just saying that there's freedom of speech and we can't make people do it, you know? And you know, that was his argument. And so he grew in controversy around that. That was where I first heard of him. There's this conversation between him and Sam Harris. That's an epic. Did I send it to you?
No.
My God, you are going to fucking love this.
Yeah.
And all of our listeners are going to love this. I mean, most people who like our conversation are going to really dig this. There was this. Thank you. I saw you. That was premeditated. So
well, because now whenever you say Sam Harris, I can't help but think of the fart button, because there's no way our paths are ever going to cross. Right. The closest we got was when Sam Harris wrote me a 1099 for a job I did for him, and he's like, "See you later,
that
bud."
In history, in the annals, you're just like, no way Sam Harris is going to be here.
That's right.
So they had this debate. What is that?
What the fuck? Something is ringing. One of the many devices. It's not me. Is it you?
It sounds like
it's probably my Apple Watch.
Oh,
I got my iPad over here, my watch over there, my phone over here. Oh my God. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, no, it's fine. So Sam Harris and wait
for that to go to voicemail. Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson. They have this debate in front of a huge audience. Mm-hmm. Half of the room are there for Sam Harris, half are there for Jordan Peterson, and they're talking about the question of whether or not religion, as it's been written, as it's been done, is serving humanity anymore without an update.
The answer is yes, it's doing just fine.
Right.
Leave it alone.
So Sam Harris has obviously written a lot of books on religion, you know, the end of faith and stuff like that, really controversial stuff, based in how much harm religion has done more than the good it's done. And whether the Bible, you know, people live by the letter of the Bible.
Hey, Mom, you just might want to scrub through this one. Go about 45 seconds left.
There's a 30 button. You can just hit it about 4 times, maybe more. So you're just blowing up.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's nice to see you fuck up. It's really nice to see you technologically fuck up.
Well, if you see it in front of me now, I know.
It's fucking so ridiculous. And then it's something as simple as a text message going off on your phone and a fucking iPad in the other room. It's so funny.
Okay.
Okay, so they have this
here.
debate.
Yep.
And it's so fucking epic. You're watching two people who have opposing views, who have respect for each other, but are also like want to take it right up to the line of I'm proving how you're a dumbass for thinking this, you know? And it's so refreshing to see two opposing sides at a time like this where our climate is what it is in this country. To, you know, this is, I guess 3 years ago, maybe when the thing was done. And it was a tour that they did. I think they did a few dates. And in this one particular one, it was like a 3-night thing where they came back and did, I think, a logged 6 hours on this. And they had to stop. Like the first night was supposed to be 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
It went 2 hours. You know who's moderating is Brett Weinstein. You know that guy? Okay, cool. Well, anyway, look him up. And I think a lot of people probably know him because he's been on like Rogan and shit like that. Anyway, he's moderating the thing. And it's this insanely intelligent conversation that's being done by these two people where the Sam Harris audience, every once in a while, will agree with Jordan Peterson, have to come over the other side and kind of clap. You know, it's just that much respect. It's not so polarized that they can't have a conversation and agree where they agree.
Yeah.
And so you're hearing this audience. He just got a ding.
And that's regarding our mystical, cynical photo shoot. That shouldn't have been a thing because we said it was set for a date, and then Jamie pulled out and all that. So this is all your fault, actually.
Yeah, it is.
And the people on the cynical side are clapping right now.
Right. So anyway, this talk, and just look it up, and you will be in heaven if you think that this topic interests you, and if you, on the other end, hearing the respect resounding among a room of a large audience, you know. So anyway, Jordan Peterson, the kind of he's a little like he's the one that believes in the Bible.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he believes in the stories of it. He thinks that they're important stories about humanity and psyche, and that it's an important book, and he doesn't think that it should be thrown out. He also doesn't agree with the fundamentalist violence that's gone on, but like it's trying to find your ground, I guess, in that, you know, and doing it in front of an audience, you know, and these are two people who can hold their ground with what they know and what they believe, and it's compelling whether you feel more on a Jordan Peterson side or a Sam Harris
Without
side.
a fart button too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where I got exposed to him. He wrote this book called I think it's like the 12 Lessons for Society or something like that. But it followed this talk, and I got the book, and it sounded like a cool thing to investigate. I didn't read it. I gave it to somebody. But in there, it talks about not doing things that'll make you resent your children. So that's, I mean, this is a long thing, but you could tell, I mean, we had the distractions of all the
It would have been a 35-second explanation, but
no, and I also wanted to plug that talk because
Yeah.
I think that, you know, a lot of people at this time are doing some major studying, trying to better themselves, trying to figure out where they are and all the information that's out there. And this talk is a really good one.
Yeah.
So look that one up, and it's the talk 1. And I think it's like 2 hours. But anyway, so not resenting your children. I really started listening to that more recently because I could see myself doing things for my children, like picking up something after them or whatever. And I go like, hey, this is kind of, in my mind, I'm going, this is kind of bullshit, you know? And the other part of me is going like, well, hey, you're a dad that sees them every however many days it is, and they don't live with you primarily. So you don't want to rock the boat, you know, I don't want to like cause anything. But that over the years, I mean, it's been 5 years now since we lived in the same house together as a married family.
right.
So time has passed enough to where we've established their confidence through this. So they're not as shaky as I need, as my mind tells me that I can't like, hey, just call them on their shit and like, hey, I shouldn't be doing this dish, or
Right.
you know. And I say it in a way that I really craft my sentences to be without judgment, and I don't let them apologize. I'm like, hey, no, this isn't Apology Central. Like, you don't need, this is.
Yeah, I love that place.
I was thinking, what shows are on there? It's not something that I want you to apologize from. I just want you to learn from it.
Yeah.
And just try better next time. And that's been the theme. And so lately, like, I've just been in moments like that, like I illustrated earlier, like, hey, you need to be off your thing if you're going to talk to me or have any requests or anything like that. It has to be, synchronizing body and mind, being present and being here. And it's a way of inserting sort of like, presence as being something valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm blown away at the same time, because as I was telling you last night a little bit, like, I worry about with this time that we're all in. I think that a lot of people are probably going to relate to this who have kids. This time shaping our kids forever, because of the digital importance and how digital is connecting us all right now. And like, it's become a huge part of our lives and our children's lives. They're doing school from fucking, home on their computers. And then they're going from that straight to a device. And so I worry often if there's something remaining intact in there that this is a phase, like my brother years ago, 17 years ago or something, when he was 13, he was playing World of Warcraft all the time. He'd get home from school and just lived on it. And I was going, at the time, I was looking at my brother, and I'm talking about Ryland, my surf nomad, fucking outdoorsy, like so far from being on digital guy now. I worried about that at the time. Like, where's this going? And lucky for him, he moved out of the city at a certain point and hung out with people where surfing was the everyday thing and whatever. So, but, I worry about that with our kids. Like, is there something intact in there that will make it through this time of all of this digital?
Well, I mean, I hope that it could be a sense of like, I understand where I was at when I was 13. My thing wasn't a phone or even video games, but I came home every day and watched TV.
Right.
And buried myself in movies and TV shows. And that was a time where it was really hard in going through all the hormonal changes and all just everything that's just like inundating you with like this upgrade of a human experience from a child to a teenager. And so hopefully maybe this is a time where they're just kind of having a resource that allows them to kind of almost like shut the world out, because it's really scary and it's really overwhelming.
It's the only way my kids are having friendships.
That's true. Well, yeah, and it's also just in a more contemporary sense, it is like it's almost vital to have any sort of sense of connection, because like to take that, giving yourself some grace and some liberty around what we're doing with our children in this specific time, and being like, we're in a fucking pandemic still, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it and we wish it wasn't that way. It is for sure. So I would hope that when I'm thinking of like an age where, and again, it's like kind of hard to compare and contrast what my 13-year-old was to Tiger's, but to think of like when I got out of high school and then had freedom to do whatever the fuck I wanted. It wasn't, oh great, now I'm going to get an apartment and I'm going to sit and watch TV like I did when I was 13. It was like, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, right.
And so hopefully there's some level of appeal to the outside world by the time Tiger's gonna be 18 in 5 years.
I know. Well, so
or 4 years.
So, but the world, like, oh my God, I can do anything.
Yeah.
That world has now shifted to, I can hit any button and it can come to my house.
I know, it's
It's
true.
a little different.
Oh, it's a lot of different.
It's
a lot of different.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I know it's really, really worrisome.
Well, so my worry has been that.
Yeah.
All right. And so there's a happy ending to this, or a happy middle or something. And that is that these are the kinds of conversations I'm having with myself lately, and the kind of conversations I'm having with the kids about presence. And, I'm watching their character through it all resound. I'm watching their character shine through in moments where I would expect the ravages of being young and letting your impulse get in the way and saying things that are hurtful first, apologizing later. All of that, I'm thinking that's the best that can be done in certain situations lately. And I watch them transcend those, like with the skill of, like an enlightened being.
Yeah.
Where they're just like not getting hurt, like Neo Matrix level dodging bullets and speaking their truth. And I'm watching that happen. The other night, like they got into a fight right before bed, and I was thinking I needed to intervene. Lacey's like, hang back, so I do. I'm wanting to trust that more. And in this situation, I got to see this perfectly protected, I think, whatever I've been fostering from them, them when they're young, like meditating in graveyards, being exposed to, a lot of ideas of the world, and not saying that you have to believe in any, not, me forcing any ideas on them of who they are to be, all of that stuff, and allowing them to kind of build an emotional experience that's all their own, being out of the way of that. Now is you can see this thread in this moment. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and they're having this nuanced conversation that adults don't even have about their feelings, and working it out without insulting each other.
Right.
In the dark, next to tears, sort of talking about how time changes the dynamic of a sibling relationship.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. I'm on the verge of tears listening to my son, talk about how he misses his sister a bit, because they have a sort of stepsister situation and she has a dynamic, whatever. So they, when they're home in the place where they live mostly, they have to work with a third party, and that third party, them being able to talk about this and not have this be one of those things that like years later you're in fucking therapy or you're in rehab.
Yeah.
Which is what I've seen more and more, is like they talk about these for the first time.
Right.
Their feelings about it. The kids know that our place is a space for them to be able to say that stuff and to have it be honored. And we passed the talking piece enough in the house now to where they don't need one. They honor each other's time to speak, and to do that at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Really made me feel like, okay, I don't need to worry so much. Because I heard a voice after meditation. I was sitting with all this on Sunday or something. I was sitting with like, is digital too much? Or whenever it was, Friday night or Saturday morning.
We'll be right back, folks.
So I'm meditating on it, and I mean, it's been heavy on my mind. I'm meditating, trying to not be with that.
Yep.
And I come out of it, and this thought comes, and I feel like it's from a future me that's going like, hey, it all works out, man. You don't need to worry about that little aspect of that. They're beautiful. They're perfect. Just allow it. Yeah. Because it's okay. And rein it in where it needs to be.
Yep.
And do what you're doing as far as like calling their presence. But like everything's okay. And I was like, really? I really wanted to believe myself, So by the end of the day, I could. Yeah. By the end of the day, with that circumstance in the bed, it was amazing. And so I want to say that I want that story hopefully to be translatable to just anybody who's in this situation who worries about that aspect of it. If you're being the parent that you're being, which is somebody who shows up, if you're putting in your all and really like, not phoning this thing in, and you care a lot about your kids, and you show them consistently that you do, and that they have a place for you, they have a place within you to be able to speak to openly. If you're doing that, I really think that we're all going to survive these times that are becoming more electronically amplified.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing I don't relate with in that story is the fact that somebody was up at 11 o'clock at night. How the fuck?
That would have fucking hurt. That was ginger juice. Would have come through my nose.
Yeah, I mean, it is really, really terrifying to think that we're now contending with something that, I think parents have struggled forever as to like if they're doing the right thing, if they're doing the wrong thing, and now suddenly throw in this extra X factor of like, here's something else to contend with. Yeah. But it almost does feel like it's more of it's just motivating, because it's not like our kids have phones and we don't, there's like, hey, it's shining the mirror right back at us. Right. Like, well, you're on your phone too. You know? Like,
totally.
I've talked with people who like where their kids have called them out on their phone use. And that hasn't happened to me yet. Maybe it's happened like once, but it's it's enough to like spook you to be like, oh Jesus Christ, like I'm doing something where my kid is telling me that I'm, I need to like check myself. And so we're all kind of like, we need to kind of like bounce it off of each other of like really seeing and talking about like do as I say, not as I do type mentality of like to do that with your kids, trying to get them off of technology when you're just doing it the same. So it's this thing that, I think we should all collectively find to reignite our passion of nature and going out and doing things that don't involve the phone. But it's fucking tough, especially like the phone being connected with the camera. Like my hand's on my phone all the time with Delu because I'm always taking pictures of them. And I wish I was about to say, I wish there was something that it was that they invented where you could just take photos with it. I think I just invented a camera. So it's just it's a balance for sure. And I don't know if we're doing it right, and we're not going to know until another generation goes by when our kids are like, man, my fucking dad was whatever. Like until they give us their adult evaluation of us, it's kind of hard to know. These real time situations where you're trying to check in and meditate on it and say like have a voice say, hey man, you're fucking doing the best you can.
Well, and I also I've been talking to a client in Wisconsin, and there's a difficult situation there with a teenager who has justifiable anger for a father not being present. And so they're needing to channel all this out. And as good as the mother does, and as much as she shows up for her daughter, the daughter needs to express how fucked up it is that the dad's not there. And even though it's working out for her, even though she has support everywhere she looks, this element of having a parent gone, and it hurts so deep. I think, it's one of the things that shows up in all my years of mental health work, like the severe addiction thing happens usually for people who have been absent of a parent. And the extreme version of that is an adopted kid, even if it's at birth, like not knowing this aspect of your life, not knowing this crucial element of where you came from, has this effect on people. And I've seen it, I've worked with people in treatment who have amazing parents, but they were given up for adoption, and they got these amazing supportive people who have done their best and provided them a life. And I mean, this is a repeat situation. So this model that I'm talking about right now, it's one that I've seen over and over. And the hurt from the hole in your heart, like, shows up in massive addiction or like in schizophrenia almost, like people just, it's so crucial. And I'm not saying with everybody. I mean, like, certainly I'm sure there's some shining examples of how love just ends up being love and but I've worked with some who are like this. And so anyway, so this person that I'm working with, her daughter needs space to be angry, and the mother feels like she's doing everything she can. And she wants to know if it's safe to be angry at her daughter in this moment, to let her know when she's out of line, and if it's safe because she doesn't want to be another person who her daughter doesn't feel like she can count on.
Right.
And so I let her know that it is safe, that she's done everything right. She's shown up. She's brought a support system into her life. Her daughter knows that that's available, and she just needs to get this shit out, and it's going to land okay. She's going to know through the consistency of her mother showing up in her life and offering her all the support that's going to be there always. But this hurt just needs to be exercised in some way, you know? And so I just want parents to know also, and that's a sort of a more extreme version of just the everyday, which is like, hey, is it okay if I tell my kids when they're being a dick?
Yeah.
Is it all right if I do that? And I'm like, yeah, it is. because that's the real world.
You heard it here first, folks. You can tell your kids they're a dick. Jamie said it's okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the Jordan Peterson thing in the book of like, you know, don't do things that you'll resent your kids for. Like, don't let them walk all over you.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people also I've worked with who are like, my parents, they let me do whatever the fuck I want, and I wish they would have imposed more rules.
Right, of course. God,
so
it's such
many
a fine
people.
balance, and you got to, it's constantly your finger on the knob, your hand on the knob.
Because it shows up as like neglect.
Right, yeah.
It's neglect.
Yeah, and then you're mad to be mad at your parents, be like, God, why didn't you like yell at me? Or why didn't you like tell me I was doing something wrong?
I mean, I'm talking like successful, artistic adults are now looking back and going, I wish my parents would have been a little stricter.
Sure.
Like they could have moved in a lot more. I've heard this over and over. They
Yeah.
could have moved in on me a lot more, and I would have hated it at the time, but really appreciated it.
Well, isn't it a paradox? Because it's like, because then you go, you know, obviously in hindsight, in retrospect, you're like, I wish my parents would have done something. But had they done that and then they pushed into the, now I wish my parents weren't so imposing.
No,
so it's
I
like,
know. No,
you can't. Like as a parent, you're just like, we have to now accept that our kids are going to find some resentment or find something that we did that they didn't like. So then it's up to us to say, well, you know, that mentality of like, well, I did my best. You can either be like, well, I did my fucking best, or, you know, you can just believe it in yourself. Like I did my best. And also let me hear your critiques. Let me hear what you feel about that.
There's never been a better commercial for the middle path. Because we're acknowledging right now that extreme versions of these two things, either you're too strict or you just let them do whatever. Both of those don't work.
Right.
And so if we're talking about, God, there's a real sweet spot, that's what life is. It's just in all versions, in all situations where there's opposing extremes, which is almost everything.
Yep.
Everything is on some sort of scale, you know? The middle path is where it's at.
Middle path's where it's at, baby. Yes, that's got a nice ring to it.
The middle path's where it's at.
Damn, if that's not true, man. Yeah, for sure. Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever smoked weed?
Yeah. No.
I have this interesting relationship with it where I cannot for the life of me, and I've tried for years to understand it. I can't explain what it is to be high, what the feeling is.
Oh, right.
Like even, and if there's been times in my life where I've gone, you know, for a spell without doing it, and I can't, and then for long enough, I forget. Like you just like can't even put yourself in the, like what it is, that feeling. And then you
know
do
why,
it,
man?
And tell me.
Because weed is God, man. It's the
And
great mystery.
It's something for sure. I just can't wrap my head around it. And I know that it's like an interesting thing to have a plant, kind of bemoan the idea of calling it an ally when people do that, but sure, why not? Just having this medicine that is available so abundantly across the planet. And I want to say to all the people in this country who live somewhere where it's not legal, I'm so sorry. It's so fucking sad to be this far in human existence and that you're still having this fucking draconian shit opposed on you.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
People in prison still.
Yeah, for sure, man. Legalize everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I smoked some yesterday, and it was.
Wait. Go into this. So, why did you smoke? It's a good full story.
'Cause I wanted to get high.
Right. Because what? Because you've earned a day off, and normally you're trying to fucking find things to, feel. Go ahead, take it.
Yeah. No, I think that's the perfect way to put it. I rarely give myself time off. Or even have a definition of what time off is. Like, what does a day off for Darren look like?
Yeah.
It's like anxiously pacing around the house, half cleaning the counter, and then getting distracted and going over and like doing some push-ups, wanting to watch TV, but then feeling guilty about wanting to watch TV. Just this
and this
fragmented.
is where all your random text jokes come from.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Source.
It is my mind is, and it's obviously why meditation is a right path for me to have a space where just like unobligated.
Darren said meditation. Everybody take a drink.
So it's just so, my days are just so, I don't write anything down, so I don't have any sort of scheduling. Like I needed a personal assistant that's like, you wake up at this time, from 8 to 9, you do this to this. And I feel like that would be,
would you do
operate?
it?
I would, yeah, I'd totally operate well under a schedule.
Would you hire somebody like that to do that at
how
this
do you
stage?
do that? Like because then I'd have to, I'd have to task them with telling me the things I need to do, and then they're putting in the schedule, but I don't really have anything to do. So that's a big part of it. I don't have anything to do. So therefore I'm left with like coming up with something to do.
Right. Okay. So what if this person was able to outline things that went along with having a spiritual practice, one that's tailor made to you, and things that a person who's taking this interest in meditation might do, a way they might live their life, bringing an ashram to your house.
Personal trainer. Yeah.
Dude, this is a fucking business idea.
For sure.
Bringing the ashram to your house. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd be so down. That's official. Yes. So that being I think that's kind of the crux of it all is waking up where I haven't planned anything the day before, and so I'm in real-time decision-making mode, and that's not a great place for me to go because I can't focus. I can't say like, okay, I need to, like, there's things I need to do for my business. I need to work out. It's boring, but UPS logistics and things where I'm just like, I cannot for the life of me think about sitting down right now for an hour and figuring this shit out. And so I just push it away, and then just, whatever. So
that's why you got high to fill the space of all that.
Well, so I was feeling like the anxiety around not having something to do, which I don't feel like I experience. Maybe I do, but I don't maybe define it as anxiety. But I was feeling this like, oh my fucking God, I'm being pulled this way and I'm being pulled this way, but I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting pulled all the way over here, and now I'm here. It's just like halfway. It was like this this weird fucking tug of war.
Yeah.
Where I thought, I'm going to smoke some weed. And it is so fucking rare. Like I can't tell you how rare it is for a daytime
to be
weed smoke.
Day stoned. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've made this analogy a long time ago where I don't smoke weed during the day. How did I do this? I'm still so high right now. No, but it was the way that I felt like, the same reason I don't smoke weed during the day is the same reason I don't wear sweatpants during the day. It's like I don't want to be that level of comfortable.
Right.
Like at the end of the night when I get home, I take my big boy pants off and I put my sweatpants on, and I'm like, okay, day's done. I'm going to like get my mental sweatpants on, which is smoking weed. And so it definitely puts me in a place where it's a shift in perspective, and you go, okay, now I'm operating through this lens of existence.
Yeah.
And it was a bit ungrounding where I was like, or also I felt like it sort of forced a level of presence on me where I go, I am presently high.
Yeah.
Right now I am high.
Yeah.
Like just being really in the moment of highness.
Yeah.
Which you don't want to go too far into that because you're like, oh my God, I'm high. And you're like, you become crippled by it. But
when you become your highness.
So I was high, and then I still didn't have anything to do, but it didn't feel as bad. It didn't feel as like, I didn't feel as guilty where I was like feeling that lack of purpose where like when I'm sober and I'm like, I need to be making money. I need to be like producing something. I need to be making art, where this self-imposed obligatory sort of pressure I put on myself.
That voice gets quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yep. And so it was, I don't know, it was probably like noonish.
Yeah.
It was high noon. I wish I had a rim shot. I got a rim shot. I don't have a rim shot on here. Nice. And then I went to the grocery store, which I needed to get some things, and I made a shopping list before I left after I was high.
Nice.
Consisted of cornstarch and turkey.
That's a hell of a sandwich. Call that the Pilgrim.
It's very, it's very gritty. And so I just kind of putted around Westridge, the grocery store, which felt like that was the right highness, because I thought, man, I just, you kind of just take everything in. You have that kind of that childlike wonder.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh,
how
look
could
at
that be
Like,
wrong?
How's it wrong when it feels so right?
Right.
And then, think like I had my sunglasses on in the grocery store.
Oh, fuck
which, because then I also like, I don't want to run into somebody right now. Like, I just feel like I wouldn't perform very well conversationally. Larry
David should add that one to the list. Blind people, assholes, and stoned people.
Yes.
With glasses on inside.
I want to see this squirrel jump across the gate. He's like, why is the fucking gate open?
This is like a Mervyn Griffin show. This is like random guests.
Man, your fucking references today are on point. And people are going to be Googling shit. The fucking Neville brothers. So, I don't know. I guess, I don't know, the kind of the point of it all is I still don't really understand what it is to be high. Like, I don't know how to still describe that feeling.
Yeah, I think your description, even your experience right now, talking about being high, in drastic opposition to some people who didn't get the weed bug or the weed gene, you know?
Right. Well, that's what I was saying about this
Lacey
medicine that's available to everybody, but not necessarily the medicine for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. No. And and oddly enough, I mean, in the last 4 years, because of the production of like designer weed, including things called like dabs,
Yeah.
which are just like high concentration THC, and the weed in itself is like smoking 3 times what like my parents smoked, you know, like, and that's the normal degree now.
Yes.
But I've treated a lot of people, young people from 18 to 22 who have experienced schizophrenia, the onset of sort of schizophrenia from smoking high concentrated THC. And it's not like you wake up from that the next day also and you're like, oh, I'm glad that's over. Like it opens up something that doesn't get shut soon.
Yeah.
Where this window to, you know, hearing voices and just like, and seeing scary things still. I've seen it more in the last few years than I even knew it. I mean, I didn't even know it existed, this problem. And
well, yeah, because it didn't because the weed wasn't that strong. Yeah,
right.
for sure. And
Exactly.
it felt like to me with the trend towards really high THC and really low CBD, where it just felt like it was an answer to some to sort of the societal level of like, we want to drown the fuck out how tough everything is right now, and so it just kind of naturally happened. Or I guess it happened unnaturally, but that it was kind of a response to, let's just fucking numb ourselves. And how can we do that? Up the THC, lower the CBD. And now it feels like there's some balance coming back in it again of like, whoa. Like this is not, it went too far the wrong way. But some people are still like, some people operate and that's again, the mystery of all this,
Seth
of this
Rogen
thing. Yeah, I mean, there's some really productive, and I think it's amazing when I'm like, anytime you watch like a weed documentary where there's like some CEO of a company and they're talking about, and I'm like, you're in your suit right now and you're high right now,
right?
And I just like, wow, like, but that's
most
the
of
lens
those Vice documentaries where they're interviewing people, or like Bong Appetit. Have you ever watched that show?
Yeah,
like people don't look baked as fuck.
No.
Like Be Real doesn't look baked as fuck.
Right. Well, because that's then they become that normal, like where you do it so much that it's just a normal
new
range
norm
for you. Yeah.
I was thinking about Seth Rogen like the other day because he was on Kimmel and he just, you know, I'm thinking, did constantly smoking weed do that laugh? Did it create that laugh that he has? Oh my God.
I got you, baby.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, and so I think that it just feels like even like I said to Viana, it was like, you know, as a parent, you go, there's some level of not guilt, but I'm like, okay, what does this mean for being a parent and being high? And I've said, it feels like it's cheating. And Viana, you know, assured me that it's like, you can cheat a little bit in this world. Like you can get away with something where it's not cheating to the point where there's a level of neglect. Cause I'm like I said, I'm very infrequently high during the day.
Yeah.
But in the times that I am, I can be a better parent.
Fuck yeah. Just a better person.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
I think, you know, we slow down, we see the harmfulness of our speech, perhaps the harmfulness of a thought. Like we turn left where we might turn right. Like I've seen it time and time again, at least recently with my re-engagement with sort of designer weed, where I'm doing like low THC but balanced. Exactly
That's another
with
thing.
CBD.
Is like, I'm grateful that we live in a time where we can actually kind of experiment a bit. Especially like we can go. You and I could literally drive down the street and there's like 5 fucking dispensaries. You can go in and the bud tenders are all like,
so cool.
The terpenes and the fucking which is great. But the level of and I'm curious to kind of compare, and I don't know if it's apples and oranges or what, with when we were talking about psychedelics, kind of, you know, opening the veil, and on the other side of that veil is just the infinite cosmos and the mystery and spirit and all this kind of shit. Where do you think when you're smoking weed, where is the veil even a thing, or is it opening a veil back here? And it's open because the thing that people struggle about with weed is that it makes there's a level of paranoia, and so then that means you're going even deeper into your own sense of self and your own identity, and that's where the paranoia is breed, because there's no paranoia in spirit and like the infinite cosmos.
Okay, so there isn't, but at the same time, I think that a similar door that gets opened for you with ayahuasca or psilocybin Lacey has that door kicked open with THC. And I think the schizophrenia that you describe in that example, you might also describe as like all the patterns and the cathedral in Iraq, or is that where it was?
Yeah. Iran, but they have some in Iraq as well.
Yeah. And like that could appear to somebody who doesn't want that as schizophrenia.
Oh, sure. It's the same show, but a different reaction to it.
Exactly. Like, what? No. And you're like, what? Yes. You know, you're like, holy shit, everything's amazing. Like, and I'm not here. And everybody's like, everybody else is like, where am I in all this? Oh my God, this is terrible. I can see things, you know.
Yeah, fucking that's losers.
That is Lacey's experience with it mostly, you know.
Right.
There's a few gummy things I think that where she's had some success, but I work with that low THC, low CBD, and you know, it's one of the only ways, honestly, that I relax. I feel like I'm with seeing a world of stories. Living in that world, I don't get a break from it. It's so developed now to just kind of have the baseline be not taking like a solid thing as a solid thing without seeing all the things that are going into making that thing. And so that being said, it's just always on.
Yeah.
And so these gummies that I've been working with, and I'm not like, I haven't had much success with edibles in the past. Like it freaked me out. Like I can take too much with like taking a crumb of a cookie. Yeah. Can just, you know, has historically floored me. Yep. But now working with this, like it's one of the only ways that I actually do relax from seeing the stories.
Right. Yes, like, for sure. And I think
just be in my
and I'll give a shout out to the gummies as well. The Kiva. Oh yeah. There's a whole bunch of different brands or lines that they do. There's like Bliss and Social. And and I think with the gummies, it's really amazing because for me, I'll take it and then I'll kind of forget that I've taken it. And then I'm a better person and I go, oh yeah, I took a gummy about 45 minutes ago. And so that's really slow ease into it as opposed to like just like the smoking, and then you're like, I get immediately like clouded and high, and I'm like immediately high. Totally. And so it's to switch from sober to high it's shaky. It makes you like, that's when you go, oh my God, I'm really high, instead of like that slow approach.
The slow approach is 2 hours.
And I would say if anyone hasn't experimented with gummies, especially if you can find the Kivas, because it's just the level of consistency, and it's just like you get it. It's just great.
The balance one, which is 5 and 5, it's really great. But the Kiva, and this is where we take things with technology and with ability, is like, you know, those Kivas are the shit, and they should be a standard. And then I went there and they're like, oh yeah, no, those are great, but these over here, they're vegan, and they don't, you know, it's like somebody took the gummy idea and made it more
took the horse hooves out of it.
Yeah, totally, exactly. Yeah, and so.
Well, I just want to share a story that kind of is still in the grocery store trip, and what it led to, and it led to this idea of like taking the obligation out of my day and taking the pressure off of myself to be productive, and like, God, just thinking about like how many days in how many years I've done it where like every day is like, this needs to be productive. At the end of the day, I need to have produced something that's going to make money. Just this like, it's brutal and it's really stressful and makes me really, really tired and just, it's not good for me. And then also think, God, I'm going to be here ideally, hopefully for a really fucking long time. And that I'm doing this same thing every day where I'm putting this pressure on myself. Like one day where you don't do something productive or you're just like, whatever.
So glad you did that.
And so I went to the grocery store and I got, I walking around the fruit thing, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting looking fruit. And I go, it's a star fruit for those who are not familiar. It's a kind of a star-shaped fruit. And I'd seen it before, and it never really grabbed my eye until, you know, my eye was high. And then I thought, oh, this looks interesting. And so the guy's like packing produce next to me, like, hey, what's the deal with this thing? You just cut it up and eat it? And he's like, yeah, you can slice it up, or you can bite right into it. I'm like, oh, great. So I grabbed that. I got that and the cornstarch. Also, the moment I had with the cornstarch, like a container is like 16 ounces, like, I just needed it for a little gravy I was making. So I needed literally like 2 tablespoons. And this is the only one available. It's at the top shelf. And I'm just staring at it like, that's a lot of cornstarch. I don't need that much cornstarch.
And it allowed you to think about volume in that moment. Do I need all this? Rather than just mindlessly grabbing the first thing.
Right.
You know, convenience. Oh, there it is.
Yes. And I also could
weed
not.
Makes you think.
I could not help but would just be bewildered with the fact that it was $1.50. Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
what else in this store is $1.50 right now? What in the world is $1.50? So I got that, and I grabbed a star fruit. And then I was gonna go get Delu from school, and there's like a beautiful river kind of situation right near Delu's school, and I thought I'd had this imagined this whole like fun thing for Delu that I don't think I would have come to if I was like thinking about my inbox or thinking about jobs that I needed to do or whatever.
Yep.
And so it's just like I go right into that childlike where I'm like, my level is just right up with Delu's, where I'm like, what's going to be the most fun, fucking fantastical, imaginative thing we can do right now?
I'm living my life, and fucking I have, like, you've earned this moment.
Thank you.
You don't allow yourself to do it because you're in that constant thing.
Yeah,
of like,
and
am
I
I
have
falling behind or am I getting ahead?
Right, and I've been gifted with an incredible imagination that I often misuse or use imagination to worry. Like imagination, there's a great quote that's worry is just an incredible misuse of imagination. I forget who said it, but so you're using that ability to create something in your mind that doesn't exist, and you're using it to worry about something. Like, that's shitty. And so I had this star fruit in the passenger seat of the car, and I hid it in a little canvas bag, and I picked Delu up, and I was like, Delu, I found out about this magical tree down by the river that has this star fruit. And of course Delu was like, what? Like, so into it. I'm like, yeah, it's a short drive. We got to drive over there. And we hiked up to this tree, and I didn't know where. I just, kind of was like, all right, we'll get to a tree eventually.
Right.
And I said, okay, we have to close our eyes and take a deep breath. And when we open our eyes, if there's any ripe star fruit, they'll appear. It's like incredible.
God,
And so we did that. And then I just like Delu opened their eyes, and I was like, had the star fruit pulled out of the canvas bag, and I plucked it down from the tree. I'm like, look. And so Delu sat on my lap, and we both just munched this star fruit. And it was just like, God damn, this just like wouldn't have existed. Like this father-child bonding experiences today was brought to you by weed.
Totally. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's not to say, like, I also feel like, not that I don't like, it's also tough to be like, shit, like that was largely in part due to weed. And I don't want that to be like the only way I can get to that.
Man.
Yeah.
It's not. And I really have to say that, like, you meditated that day.
Every day.
Right. Exactly.
I meditate every day.
So that's in the mix.
Yeah.
All the days leading up to that are really in the mix.
Sure.
There is a momentum.
Well, because it is that like I said, all of those days of stressing and worrying got kind of to a breaking point of just like, I can't do this another day.
That weed creates the synthesis of all of the things that you have going on. That's what it does. In that moment, it slows down you need to be getting ahead. This is boring. Like parenting is just like, what do I do next?
Yep.
Instead of that, it allows you to work with the presence that you've established in meditation, and it allows you to work with your imagination. To have a gap to be able to work with what's fresh in the moment. Like all of it's coming together.
It's so strange that there's still this not self-imposed because it was created by culture, but this sense of guilt or irresponsibility around it.
It's not the same rule for every person, and that's the thing. Like I was, we have to have these rules in place for the dum-dums. Okay.
That's why on the window shield visor, it says remove before driving your car.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And like when you're at fucking Disneyland, this is the example I give all the time is like on the Matterhorn, it says remain seated, please. It's like, keep your arms and legs. It's like that needs to be said, not because everybody would do it, but because there's a few that wouldn't. So this blanket thing. Well, I think that's the same thing with this guilt that's been dished out around weed. There are people who are treating their emotional pain and not growing.
Right.
There are people who are like stunting their life circumstances because weed has become an idol to worship. And rather than, really seizing the opportunity to be alive and find someone that can help you work through, that stuff and live a thriving life.
Yeah.
This guilt that goes out across is because it's historically, it's referring to those people who are using it as a crutch, not to grow or to experience their lives more deeply, but to numb themselves.
Yes.
And so that's part of the thing. You grew up in that culture when it was illegal also, and I did it as well. And I honestly didn't think in my lifetime that I would see all of this happen. I mean, it just was unimaginable, But that guilt that you have, it's I'm glad that in the moment, at least, weed treats that and it silences that and allows you to be, really present with your life. But it is not just that, and you're not somebody that's also, you're somebody that's earned your ability to use weed in this way and have that kind of day,
Right.
Like it's in that moment, it helps you with everything you're working on.
Yeah, that's
already.
Great. I like that. Yeah,
It's like medicine
Yeah.
for like calming down the overactive mind.
Right.
So you can
right.
be, so you
yeah,
can be present.
It's so insidious to have any inkling of this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and that that was done by, the history of disinformation and misinformation that was purposefully spread. And I mean, I think that to your point of how that's kind of lumped in with stoners who are not active and, this kind of like the stereotype
Brad Pitt,
of
True Romance.
Yeah, totally. Fucking killing the references today. But also, do you think that there's a level of that where it does the level of enhancement and the level of treatment for it, that was also, it's just kind of talking in more like a grand conspiratorial, like why they would suppress it because it is beneficial to humanity.
Yeah.
And that level of like the man being like, we can't let people have free thinking,
Right.
fucking creativity and all this shit.
That's 100% what it is. Yeah. I mean, once people do that, then they're going to not need us.
Right.
That's the government, the idea around psychedelics, I was thinking about you in the sweatpants of your mind, stoned normally at night, watching TV. But you being stoned and watching Breaking Bad is like being stoned in the sweatpant mind with somebody standing with a gun pointed at your head.
But it's fun. I mean, it's exhilarating. Like, yeah, I did that last night. I re-upped before bed, and I've been almost done. I'm in season 5 of Breaking Bad, but it's extraordinarily tense. And it's like, do you remember the movie? I don't remember it apparently. It was a future where like people run around and do really dangerous, scary things, and they're able to record it. And so they can record it visually, but they can also record the sensation in your body. So then the movie starts with somebody robbing a liquor store and it goes awry and like someone jumps off the roof and falls. But then you get to put on the suit and the glasses and you get to experience this thing that someone else actually did. And it's like, it's traded on a black market where they'll trade these experiences.
Yeah. And it was like a VR. It was a Doors song, I think. A title. What is it?
We'll be right back.
Right. Yeah. Oh God. Strange Days.
Strange Days. Yes.
Oh my
that's it.
God.
Thank you. Whew.
Yes.
Somebody already was shouting at us on the podcast. But,
yes.
But that's what I have with those experiences. And we talked about this before, where I don't least consciously feel like watching something really, really stressful has any effect on me other than the moment where I'm like, wow, I'm in this, the presence of it, as opposed to like taking it and being like, this is going to paint my dreams tonight and make me all fucking paranoid and stuff.
Right.
But, yeah.
It's good to have. So Hamilton Morris talks about, I think he was talking about recently on Joe's podcast, but he also, yeah, I do it just to
Joe's podcast.
Joe, in every American household. He was talking about he won't demonize opiates and pharmaceuticals as much as we are collectively at this moment. There's a huge contingency of people who are, wanting accountability from the pharmaceutical companies for the invention of things like OxyContin and the billions of dollars that have been made and the bonuses that have been given for the distribution of this and selling it to the public and having it be this thing that's run rampant and is an epidemic. So there's that, and he won't join that bandwagon because he thinks that all drugs, if used properly, are important. All of them. And so and I think that that's a really good thing. It's an interesting thing. He's like, we won't demonize heroin or any of the ones that are being used destructively. He thinks that they all have a use and there should be responsibility in the way that, like, the same kind of responsibility you had. You're a fucking adult who has your own business, who is doing something with your life at this stage in the game where you don't have any other responsibilities.
Got that starfruit money, baby.
Yeah. And you're creating a beautiful memory for your child, which I think is wonderful. And it reminded me of the Santa Claus and fairy, like the tooth fairy,
Right.
right, and all that. It's like creating a magical moment. And as a matter of fact, like when I told my kids about Santa Claus, like my daughter was suspecting for a while, and she was like, she told me separately because Tiger he's somebody that really wanted to believe in things. And like, I think that it's like traced back to his younger days and like being the only one in the family before his sister showed up, and then remembering a lot of stuff with his parents' marriage. And he, it hit him harder than it hit his sister when we broke up. But like Lucia came to me and she's like, yeah, I just don't think Santa Claus is real. And I was like, well, why do you say that? And
You're like, why did I grow this fucking white beard for?
I think I did have the beard at the time, and she's like, well, I don't know, just like showing up at everybody's houses. Like, like how would that even be possible?
Yeah.
And she's like, so I really like, Dad, you can tell me, like, it's okay. Like, and I was like, okay, well, let's just not tell Tiger for a bit. And she's like, oh yeah, no, we wouldn't do that. And so we didn't. But then at a certain point, I had the idea, and I've been sharing this with people, so I'm going to share it now. When that moment comes, I think it's our parents dropped the ball a bit. It's like, oh, figure it out. Like, okay, you're right. It doesn't exist, but figure it out.
Right.
And there's still presents from Santa under the, whatever. Like they're still using the name, even though we know that it doesn't, whatever. So I just thought, like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to say Santa was a real person. There is some lore about it. And if you trace it back, there was this Chris Claus or whatever.
Chris Claus coming this summer.
There was like some dude who
it's Chris Kringle.
Yeah, Chris Kringle.
Santa
Maybe
Claus.
it was Kringle. Yeah, okay.
Maybe it was
I don't
Kringle.
know. But if you look at like the lore of it,
Yep.
mushrooms are involved.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we can
and
go down
you
that
can
one.
always see the Amanita muscaria
Yeah.
in the background, which are the red and white mushrooms. And that's where the elves idea came from.
There's a lot of ideas. Do you know about the shamans that would come down the chimneys?
Right,
and
exactly.
Bring the mushrooms, and they would dry over the fireplace, which is where the stockings come from.
There
the
it is.
mushrooms manifest overnight under pine trees, so that's why we put the presents under the trees. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so
and the reindeer, they drink they eat the mushrooms, and they get all prancy and dancy, and that's where they get the flying reindeer.
And so there was a real
Everything
person
can trace
in
back to
history.
mushrooms.
Right, exactly. And I omitted the psilocybin part of this whole thing. But just like there was a guy, and that kind of kindness was caught on. And people throughout history have kept the memory of that person alive as a means of being able to teach their kids to look for the magic in the world, to just develop a relationship with an unseeable goodness.
Yes.
And not because that doesn't exist in the world, because it does, not through Kris Kringle or whatever, but like that's why we did this. And now it's your opportunity. And this is what I was telling the kids, now it's your opportunity to either pass this legend on, to develop when you have kids, if you have kids, to pass on this thing. We've kept this thing alive because it teaches us about kindness and reliance upon the magical quality of life.
Yes.
And they got it.
Yeah.
They understood. And it was the same thing with the tooth fairy.
Yeah.
Very similar. I just said the same thing. It's,
Well, the tooth fairy is real.
Yeah, right. Or the starfruit fairy.
Well, I think that made me think of something that, having a young child, it's cool that I have a 3-year-old and you have kids who are not 3, older. But that idea of like the idea that the wow of life wears off at some point.
Yeah.
Naturally, I think, and then us as parents to have these opportunities to sort of replace that or reinstill that in our children of like, there isn't like, I feel like I don't know at what age I lost the wow. And then when
it came back, baby.
Well, when I had that psychedelic, the ayahuasca thing, and the first words I was saying were wow. And I could like see the word wow, like the O of the wow coming out of my mouth.
Whoa.
Was like, that's where I get my wow, kind of dose is like, I need to have that reopen where it's in there. It was there and then it got taken away or got fucking luggage just put on top of it and piled on it, and you got to pull all that shit away and get back to the wow. Cause like everything you can look at should elicit some wow. Like we look up at how can't look up at a plane flying by and not just be like, oh my God, as it's flying through the sky. We just go, oh, it's a plane. Like, how is that happening? How is any of this happening? And we should all be running around like mad people. Like, how is any of this? This is incredible. But you lose that. And so I think that, you know, weed and psychedelics certainly helps within that, you know, get the wow back a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your wow back, baby.
That's right. Did you ever see the Saturday Night Live skit from the late 80s, Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer?
Yes. Yes. It was Kevin Nealon? Or
no, it was Phil Hartman.
Oh, Phil Hartman. Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, you know, sometimes like I'll be flying in a plane above cities, you know, on my way to a destination, and I'll think, am I in some gigantic flying bird, some metal bird in the belly of some... Yeah, that was such a great skit.
That brings the truth.
Yeah.
Your references are 80s, 90s this week.
Yeah.
Which are kind of generally always
they're kind of in right now. The 80s, 90s is like there's an assault on I mean, it's like the fashion thing. All the kids are wearing these like insanely 90s clothing.
I know.
Like Friends made a comeback.
About that. Yep.
All of that.
Yep.
We can move on. Tiger actually was like, you know, at a young age, as I was saying in an earlier podcast, like we thought about getting him involved in like casting and all that, and then we bailed on it. And he was like not even a year old or something, and I've left it alone. And he mentioned through the years like, I'm interested in acting, but I really was waiting for him to go, hey, I'm ready to do something about this. And so he's been mentioning it more lately.
Sorry, I forgot that we're video recording now. I was about to get a booger going situation figured out here. But so he's been mentioning wanting to get into it?
Yeah, and his mom found like it's like Disney casting kind of thing. It's like, and it's some Facebook thing, and it kind of is like, is this legit or whatever?
Facebook, Disney, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Super legit.
And it's like, you know, so this past weekend, like he got a chance to audition for this casting company.
No shit.
Yeah, and he had to memorize lines about a Kit Kat, like it was like Kit Kat commercial script, and he fucking killed it. He memorized it, and he showed up for this thing. And I'm listening to, like, they make the parents sit nearby so they can hear it all, and they're like talking about this thing becoming like a way of life. They're like, hey, you know, if your kid's good, you know, get ready. You're going on a ride. It's going to cost a lot of money, so be prepared. It's going to cost money and time. Like, you really need to get together as a family and ask yourself, is this what we want to do? You know, and I'm listening to, you know, they say that portion to the family, and then they're like, okay, thanks so much, parents. And then they go back to the kid, and I'm watching just like the eagerness. Like, I'm seeing how adults have this insane power over children. When adults hold like some sort of power, like in this situation, like where I'm looking at this person who's doing this casting thing, and I'm going, I could see her whole morning. And I know that she's just a person who knows if she's even living a fulfilled life. And she's, you know, she's showing up to this thing. She deals with children all the time, some entitled, some not. Who knows if her heart's in the right place? All these things, you know. But my son is like looking at her, like everything she says, you know. He's like smiling and yes, and raising his hand and all that. And he's being a good person. He's doing something, but he's wanting acknowledgement from this person who fucking might not be paying their bills and like all kinds of stuff, you know. But they see them as connected to this dream, and so. And I'm listening to the rhetoric, and I'm listening to the things that are being said to the kids, and watching the kids on this screen, on the Zoom screen, all agree and everything. And I'm thinking, man, that is the thing right there. That is why, like, it's when, at a certain point, when kids discover that, and it's usually in the teens, where like this whole power differentiation, this whole thing of like where you hold all the stuff and you're like, I'm always showing up and trying to be good and do my best job. And then it's like, but you're kind of a mess.
Yeah.
you know, like the disillusionment
Yeah,
that can happen
sure.
for children of going like, what, fuck all this,
Right.
you know? So I'm thinking about all that as it's going on. And then Tiger ends up like, oh, I think actually his audition ended up being for today. But he gets, they don't have a spot for him that day or whatever, even though we've shown up to this thing, done this whole orientation. They say, well, we'll get you on Tuesday. I watched him show up for all this, and I'm thinking about, like, I hate that I was selfish for a minute thinking about this person is now saying this is going to cost money and time and all that. And, you know, kids are so, especially when they get into something and they want to do it, they're just like, but they said we have to do this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And thinking about that coming on, like, I felt bad that in that moment I was thinking about how this was going to change my life.
Yeah.
You know, I like the selfishness around like I'm going to be put out in some way. And it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
It didn't feel good to think about that. And it also is a very real thing. For most of us, I think, like in our own way, wherever you are at this time in life, we're all, and I consider myself among those who were like constantly working and trying to support their family and trying to do the right thing in life. And all of that just feels like so much that adding a whole life-changing thing in that moment didn't feel appealing to me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I want to be easy on myself for that. But at the same time, like, you want to do what's best for your kids and you want to give them an opportunity. And I'm thinking it could be like Shia LaBeouf or something who's starting
Let's
young.
hope not.
And, yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, but that didn't really turn out great. You know, it's weird around this thing.
So do you think with Tiger, the way that Tiger, you know, or children in general see that person as like, this is the person I need to impress and all these things, do you think that there's a certain level of naivete, or that something as adults we could also not sit there and consider the whole lifetime of this person, that information at that time isn't necessarily important, and that we're doing something in order to better ourselves? I guess
we go into an interview for anything.
Yeah, I know. Right? Well, I'm already realizing that, like, that interviews are fucking bullshit.
Right. See, that's the thing. But you walk in and you know that a bit already.
Yeah.
We all do. We all walk in at this stage in the game where we're adults. We walk in whenever there's somebody standing in the way of anything, like an administrator or whatever, and they're holding the key for us to get anything. Yeah. Whatever that is. We walk in now and we try and look for all the holes in their boat and kind of like we think about them as a person who's just in a job, who's doing their job. And so we've kind of figured them out a bit, and we're not like giving all the credence that kids give to adults. Just, they sign it away without going through all that process. They don't know that there's like a wizard behind the showing that is just like Wizard somebody who's struggling, who's somebody that's just struggling in life, probably. Yeah, but
doesn't it have to be the person who is the interviewer? So I like thinking about a position where somebody is the interviewer and their life is in shambles and they're super depressed, but the one thing that gives them power in this world is that I get to say whether or not you get the job. And so you got to go in and contend with this person.
You
do. Like, this person's a fucking on a power trip,
a real
even though
thing.
They're sad. Yep. So it's just like all around a gross situation.
That is somebody who's identified. They're clinging to their identity. Yeah. That is the one place where they do have power. They fucking thank God every day for that job where they get to go exercise some sort of power, because in most cases, those jobs, they don't promote being able to have a healthy lifestyle. Sure. You know, you're just working all the time. You're constantly in this thing where even if you have some resolve, you think you have some resolve around turning people down for something they desperately need, you're watching, you're subconscious. There's some part of you that's recording this thing going like, I'm just crushing somebody. Yeah. I'm in a job where I don't get to give this thing out freely. I have to say no to a certain amount of people. I'm showing up every day to watching people's hopes being and then you don't feel good about that going home, even if you're not in touch with it. Yep. And you look to numb yourself. Yeah. You know, you turn on TV constantly and you're eating whatever the fuck's around, and you know, it doesn't promote a healthy lifestyle to be in that position, this position of being on the chopping block or here's the red carpet into Medi-Cal.
Right.
or whatever, you know?
So just basically to distill that all is fuck jobs.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so, yes, if fuck jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I think that there is, if we took more risks, if we gave ourselves a gap and took more risks of being ourselves and finding ways that we can be ourselves in what we do, even if it's, I mean, whatever the case may be. And I could go on ad infinitum.
We all know that, baby.
Yeah. So like that type of thing, like, no matter what it is, like finding a way to be yourself in something. I think that there are more jobs available. There are more services that can be invented based in you being yourself and working with your circumstances.
Yeah.
And there are more people that can be helped from hearing the stories of you moving through your difficulties. We just don't think that there is a job for that.
Right.
We don't take the risk, or we don't have somebody, a mentor set up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the structure's
hey, that's
not there.
a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Like
know?
the adult guidance counselor,
Right?
Who gives you a chance to pick apart all the best qualities, because I don't think it's really difficult for us to see those within ourselves, to really see what, like, that's the question I posed a while ago of like, what would you do if money wasn't an object, which I think is just such a profound question.
Yeah.
To like talk about creating a gap for somebody of just like, shit, I don't know. Like yesterday, like, I don't know, like money was not an object yesterday. And then I'm just left to smoke weed and buy starfruit. What kind of society is that?
Like, I'm working with somebody right now who wrote me a note, and they said, I'm becoming my own teacher. And I'm like, God, that's it. That's exactly what I want to have happen in these sessions, is like people walking away going, I'm the guru of my own life.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. People are just like you with your thing. I guarantee that the only thing that's motivating this thing is you. You're the one that had to convince yourself to get up and do it.
Right.
You're the one that's looking for all of what arises when you're in that space.
Yeah.
You're looking throughout the day to see how it can have some sort of import into, moments. That's all you.
Yeah. It's wild to see the pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is pressure. And it's also why so many people don't do it, because they fucking hate their boss, which is their mind.
Yeah, sure.
They,
and their
like, my
actual
boss
boss too.
sucks.
So you have people up the
Right.
chain of command telling you what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just a way. I mean, somebody wrote like, can you explain psycho-spiritual counseling? What are your services like? And it really is just, it's that. It's like, it's a little meditation, but that's like the smallest bit. That's the maintenance thing to allow you to find who you are. But these sessions are basically like your and my hang. They're a hang where we discuss life. We find ways that things that you're overlooking are actually monumental.
Wait, am I going to get billed for this? Holy shit, 2 months of psycho-spiritual therapy.
I thought that's what the Patreon was for.
Oh, good segue. Patreon.com/mysticalcynical is the way you can show the support to the show. Thank you so much for everybody who's done that already, by the way. I teased it to Jamie last night, and I didn't even show him what I did, but I have some merch things that are coming that will be sending you physical things, as much as I was trying to avoid all that.
Yeah, no, it's coming.
Still so excited about this show, and I know how excited everybody that supports it is, and so we got something coming for you to be able to show your support wherever you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still great getting all the messages from around the world, and just an amazing position to be in, that I'm still trying to work with in some form of reality, like every day. It's to think that this thing that's happening right now is also being listened to in other points of time.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Right.
There was something
itself.
I looked it up. It was like, I think 4,000 hours of people like listening. Like the time that we've been played across the world is 4,000 hours.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Uruguay.
Yeah. A lot of hopes on you, Uruguay.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. So that basically the psycho-spiritual therapy, you want to give that elevator pitch, or is it just like, it's a sense of like us just being able to, you being in a place where somebody's going to help, the kind of that adult guidance counselor of like being like,
it is.
Well, talk to me, like tell me what you're feeling, and we'll kind of parse through it and see what the truths are in there, what falsehoods are in there, what stories in there, and pull it apart and really find that essence.
Most people are denying some aspect of their beauty, their goodness, much like you, who talked about on this show today, needing an excuse to get stoned during the day when you don't need to work. You got plenty of stuff to go out in the world, and you're sitting fine, in life, and yet your mind is still destructive.
Yeah.
Like in that same way, like, yes, parsing through certainly, but mainly what the psychospiritual sessions do is going through either your present or your past or both, and like, using a multidimensional lens to view this stuff. It's not just the thing that happened. It's like from my set of eyes, and I see I have a kind of kaleidoscopic eye on events. I can see from all angles or a lot of angles, and recontextualizing your past when you be back in your present after a session, you're operating and seeing the world in a new way immediately, even if it's slight. And isn't that what we're looking for in the everyday, is a way to see our life where there's richness and where there's good, and where where there's difficulty that needs understanding.
Yes.
And so all of this is just, it's like going through the old case files and reviewing it all, and maybe even just starting with the present, going through your day now, and what's happening there, and what feelings are corresponding to things that you're experiencing in the everyday. This is the kind of thing that happens in these sessions. And then meditation, if it's an interest, if it's not already an active part of your life.
I take great interest in it. I'm really a heavy meditator. So how do people, what's the best way to reach out to you? I don't know if it's like there's a good channel to reach out, so it's not.
Yeah, no, the best. Yeah, so it's you can DM Lacey, who's my manager and my partner, at Unconventional Gardener, and the services are called Love is the Author, and that's the name of the Instagram page. So like I'm also very full, but don't let that stop you from requesting a consultation.
And I think that this, like, I feel like this podcast hopefully serves as some kind of supplemental place, and we've been getting, reflections on the fact that this has opened up a wider aperture for a lot of people, considering things they haven't considered before. And so I think if anything, this is like, for me, coming into this as the cynic, as the skeptic, as all the kind of the ways that we're cut off from certain ways of thinking and consideration patterns and stuff. And so I think that just me being in this space and getting to sound all this out, and having a contingency of people who relate to me within that, and then me kind of like going towards the center of it, people coming with me in the center, like, it is a place that does feel, at least from, the population of Uruguay, how well they're doing, rising in the ranks of happiness, right below Denmark and Norway. So I think we might have a direct effect on that.
Well, I do want to plug also, like, my partner Lacey is an exceptional therapist, a licensed therapist, and she is my female counterpart, and just, we see the world the same way. And if you're looking for a licensed therapist, in California only, if you're in California and that's what you're looking for, like, she's exceptional and available. So I want to plug her as well.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Dill more.
Yeah. How about a little dill less? I have to say sometimes.
Oh, that's great. Lacey's last name is Dillmore. That's where the joke came from. We shouldn't be making inside jokes on a podcast.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah, man. It's been great.
Hold on. Let me think. Patreon, 888-4-CYNIC is the phone number. 2-minute messages, folks. 2-minute messages.
That's right.
If you want to send a longer message, record it on your phone and email it to mysticalcynical@gmail.com.
Right. And that's also our email. So you can write us there, long stories, things
totally.
that don't fit in DMs.
Yeah, it's just amazing that you've opened this sort of avenue up for people to share synchronicities and share these things that I would call coincidence. But share, like, that idea where, like, I think people are like, oh, finally I have like a venue to share this story I've been holding on, or even start to kind of pick through, where I'm so much more now, like, trying to find the synchronicities and things, like seeing, and I think that's a fun, kind of brings the wow back in, of like when you like when the the cops like have a cork board where they have the thumbtack with a string to the one thing, you know, connecting all the dots basically is what I'm saying. And so finally like being able to like, or put a pin in one dot and be like, oh, I know there's another dot here that I can connect. And when you connect it, you're like, oh my God, there's a little bit of magic. And I think the thing that used to really like get me was like, well, why? Like why?
Right,
and that's not the question. It's
right.
just, there's not a question in it. It's just experiencing the wow, experiencing the magic in
That's
it.
right, man. Yeah, it's a beautiful. Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah, man, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Great talk.
Yeah. Just we'll just keep going.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you.